to live you dying. Lord, you know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today.
Yeah, I think that's the other audio.
We don't need to escalate. War is not the but only love can conquer hate. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving today. Lines, picket signs, don't you punish me with brutality. Come on and talk to me. So we can see what's going on. What's going on? What's going on? I tell you what's going on. Oh yeah. What's going on? Oh yeah.
Yeah, but we're not on the table. We're live.
I hear somebody's got something turned up too loud.
Everybody thinks we're wrong, but who are they to judge us? Simply because we wear our hair long. You know we've got to find a way to bring some understanding here today. Picket lines and picket signs. Don't you punish me with brutality. Come on and talk to me so we can see what's going on. What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. Hey, what's going on?
There's a storm brewing. Hey, Katie.
How are you?
Calvin, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
You know what? I'm good. I've been at the house a moment around. I think we're having a storm outside, so I hope it's going to be blown away. How was your day?
Okay. Good, Lauren. I'm still working. We're getting ready for the Puerto Rican parade Sunday, so we're a little busy.
Wow.
What's really
Yes.
All right, everybody. I want to welcome you to Rhythm Flow Radio. I want to welcome you right here to the house that Earl built, the #1 internet radio station, IntellectualRadio.com, an iHeart radio station with over 70 shows, 70 to 150 hosts and co-hosts, streaming 24/7 on your smart device with internet access. I want you to know that I am big and beautiful. I'm fat and fabulous. I'm plump and pretty. I'm big and bodacious. But most of all, I am confident. I am the boss lady of Rhythm Flow Radio, your host, Katie Lowe. And we have a special show lined up for you today. Hey, I got them all in the stream. It's raining men.
Literally.
Literally it is raining men, honey. I got my sexy deep dog finger licking good chocolate. And look like I got a piece of vanilla fudge over there. And look like I got a piece of mocha sitting up there in the corner trying to be cool.
All right.
You said mocha back there.
Oh.
But listen, I tell you what, I'm going to let them introduce themselves because Before we get to talking about love, blood, and rhinestones, I'm going to let them introduce themselves because they know themselves better than I do. And who's that got that music in the background? Turn that music off. This
I will.
this is my listen,
sorry.
wait. Hold them up.
I'm
Hold
sorry.
it up. This is my show. As Brian say, this is
No. I didn't put the music on. My cousin did. That
well,
was a
you tell
mistake.
your cousin this is the Katie Lowe show. This is not the Kevin Stevens show. Honey, when you get your own show, you can do that. But until you do that, you're gonna follow by my rules today. Now you don't want me to
No,
hon-
ma'am.
you don't want
No
me to
trouble.
come.
No, ma'am.
Do you want me to come to New York?
No trouble.
Are you in New York?
No trouble.
All right, because
Don't come to New York.
I will.
That.
I
There's
will.
gonna be some picketing over here.
Honey, I want to get in. Hey, I want to get in.
New York.
I want to.
We start picketing.
I want to get next to Cuomo anyway.
You wanna
Okay.
get with who? You
Nothing.
Get with who?
I ain't gonna tell you. You didn't hear it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, come on, everybody.
We do make dreams come true.
Is it right?
I know that's right.
Okay.
Watch what you ask for.
Right, 'cause you just might get it, huh?
Yes, watch what you ask for.
Okay, listen. Come on, everybody. Introduce themselves, cause I see
All
that.
right, hold on.
I see that
I'm
this
gonna fix that.
Okay, cause I see
Okay,
that this
so,
can get out of
Marcus,
hand.
why don't you go first? Okay, can you hear me? Yeah, Marcus is gonna go first.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Katie.
Hey, Marcus. Okay, Marcus.
My name is Marcus. I am from Gary, Indiana. I currently live in Illinois.
Wait. It's a little noisy. We see. Don't tell everybody, but Kevin Stevens is quite noisy.
Yeah,
We have to wait till he quiet down. He wanna be seen.
Just Calvin.
He wanna be seen. He wanna be seen. We already know he wanna be seen.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to Marcus.
Go, Marcus.
Okay, come on, Marcus.
Again, I'm Marcus. I'm from Gary, Indiana. I currently live in Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah.
I went to GI in the house. I went to Indiana University and I got my Bachelor's of Science in Public Affairs.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Calvin,
okay, Mocha.
Yes.
why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, hi. How are you? I'm Calvin Stevens. I'm from New York City. Went to Hunter College and Pace for education. I was a teacher for many years, and that's it. I'm just here to be a part of what we're a part of the culture of New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I am Brian McLemore Smith. I currently reside in Chicago, but I actually was born in Denver, which nobody even knows that they had us out there. But now they got the weed, everybody knows. I went to Arizona State University. My major was sociology. It took me 1,000 years to finish school, but I decided to go into fashion. In the middle of these careers, I was like, this is not for me. I'm also the sole contributor to the book that we're going to discuss today that I'm so proud of, Love, Blood, and Rhinestones, the story of same-sex abuse. So it's been a little while in the coming, and these gentlemen that are here with me are just facets of what's going to happen because this book is going to be a movement.
All right. Okay, you know what? Before we get off into the meat of the show, and the meat of the show is Love, Blood, and Rhinestones, I just want to kind of ask you about what do you think about this movement that's happening right now with the death of George Floyd?
All right. That means we're going to be here for 7 hours.
No, wait.
Don't.
We're not going to be here for 7 hours. I know how to control. I know you are, because I know how to control my show.
Are you gonna make us shut up?
Don't make me go there, because I can.
I know. Oh, I'm teasing.
Uh-huh.
Now, I just wanted to keep the spirit up. But the basic what's going on right now. I think it was out of control. I'm kind of I'm kind of like standing in the middle because I feel that we needed a little speaking up, a little. We need that because we have to stand for what we believe in.
Okay.
But everything else that happened around it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
It just got a little. It's getting a little out of hand. Everyone's very frustrated. I think we need a town hall meeting, and we need to get our communities back in control, where everybody needs to be able to speak in their own communities, so we can start fixing things. And that's where I think that's where it begins with the politicians, the churches, and everyone that's in charge needs to grab their community and start speaking out a little more, so we can kind of get a little more control right now, because everyone's frustrated. Everyone.
And you
very
know,
frustrated.
it didn't help either that we were sort of on house arrest for several
Okay.
months. And
Yes,
we were
yes.
frustrated. We were in our houses, and the only thing that we had was the media. And there was all that stuff that was coming in, and then no way to release it. There was, no bike riding at one time. There was no
Yes.
socializing with your friends. There were no live bands. There was no church. So you had no outlets. And then once the outlet, once you had the, and I don't want to call people animals, but it was like being a caged animal, and you get out of the cage and there's one situation, and then you got 400 or 500 years of oppressed people that never got a chance to express themselves. And then you had somebody that physically ignited the fuel by throwing a brick, which I don't see too many black people brought no bricks downtown Chicago on pallets to throw into windows. So there's something behind that whole situation as well. And I think you're right, Calvin, that we do need healing. We need counseling. We needed counseling just from COVID, let alone, from the riots and the death. We needed counseling just to get back to speaking to people and to be able to and be able to go to the grocery store and not looking behind you when somebody's not 6 feet. So that was xenophobia. And then the world also needed to pay attention to us finally. And unfortunately, if the cameras had not been pointed this time, there would have been police officers getting off again. There would have been a family that would have been dismissed. They would have been paid off and swept under the rug. But this time, the sheet was pulled off of everybody's faces, and the whole world saw America for its ugly truth. And so now the movement has to begin.
I'm so glad you said that last statement, because I feel like this is something that needed to happen. This is something that was eventually going to happen. I come from a generation where we are tired of singing and chanting and holding hands and singing Negro spirituals. No, we want change right now by any means necessary. And I'm not invoking violence, but at the same time, something needed to be done, something said. I live with a white roommate, and I understand that silence is violence, because when you don't speak up on this matter, it's not it's not just a black matter. This is a white privileged matter as well.
Yeah.
Right. But when I'm talking from the educational side. When in school, when I told all the parents, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, and their approach wasn't so good, you go, well, you tried your best. If you can grab a few students, we were dealing with 3,000 students a day.
Wow.
So in high school, and you're talking, come on, parents, I need your involvement, I need your. That's why. So a lot of that started from there, and so when you see everything now, you're like, wow, So there's a lot of different issues that need to be addressed, so we could take care of things the correct way, But I'm glad people spoke up. I'm glad everybody went out. Everybody, went and said something, and now things are starting to get done.
Yeah, and you're right, and you're right. Katie?
Okay, I think that it happened. I think that God made it happen at a great time. I think it
God did
happened.
make it happen.
I think that it happened at a time that we were all, like you say, quarantined. And it happened at a time when we had to see it. There was no way you couldn't say that you didn't see it because it was all over the news. And
Yeah, I
everybody
felt
and
that family
everybody
watching.
was quarantined. So you had to see it. You had to
Yeah.
see it. You know how some people say, "Well, I didn't see it because I was so and so and so." Oh no, we were just about all at home in front of those TVs. You had to see it. And my
Yes.
thing is, it was supposed to happen like that.
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
only did it wake up America, it shook the world, and the world
Yeah.
is still shaking.
Yes. And the last time this happened was the civil rights movement. So this movement was long overdue.
Yes.
And all the movements that have happened like this. Rome fell just like this. Marauding in the streets, burning down Rome. They burned Rome down. All of those great countries fell because of the infrastructure. And we got to start all over. It's broken and it needs to be fixed.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. Okay, I got that off my chest. Now, I got one more thing I got to ask, and then we're going to get off into the book.
Baby, it's your show. We ain't going to do nothing but wait.
I know it. I know it because I'm mean. I'll zap you out of here. This is my street.
Until I start making noise again.
Oh. Right.
Okay.
Well, you know what?
Kelvin, I do have your email address, so you be nice to me, okay?
Oh, I like it. Now we're talking. Oh, yes, ma'am.
I learned.
Come on down.
Everything that
right.
everything I learned it from Brian, right?
Oh, I can see he taught you.
He taught me very well. Now, the other thing that I wanted to ask, do you think that they just over funeralized George Floyd?
Oh my God! Yes.
I hope no. Listen, I don't want anybody to get upset with me. I don't want anybody to get upset with me. But I just had to ask that question. Do you think that they? Do you think they just took it too far because Floyd Mayweather, that's his name, was paying for it? Do you think they just took it too far?
They had Al Sharpton. This is what Marcus brought to me. Why is Al Sharpton at your funeral?
No. Don't talk about our friend over here in New York.
Al Sharpton.
Al had to go preach. Never mind. He had to put his 2 cents. He put his 2 cents.
Wait, Calvin, listen. I think that it took away from the memorial service was. I get it. I know it's public and the family couldn't grieve, but I don't think that they had a chance to grieve with all those people and the cameras, and it was a cut. They had to do something over. Who does that over, girl? I want you to cry again because the camera didn't get you. That type of thing is not cool.
That was extra. All that extra stuff was added publicity-wise.
Well, I didn't know Reverend Al could preach like that. I didn't know the man I didn't know Reverend Al could preach like that. Now, he could really preach.
Al was somebody to play around with. Oh, yeah. Let me tell you something.
Away from him. Not taken away from him. Oriented.
What I'm saying, I don't want no surface funeral. Okay, I want the people who are actually in my life at this funeral. If I get shot by the police, like I just feel like it was too televised. It made a circus out of the movement.
Well, honey, when I die, I do want Jamie Foxx to come and sing over me.
All right. You said it.
And
All right.
ooh, I'm serious. I want Jamie to sing.
Okay.
Well, you need to talk to Calvin Stevens. He can wrangle the stars. So he'll probably have to talk to Jamie for you.
Okay, I got his. I got his email address.
Before Jamie.
Before Jamie, you got to talk to two people.
Just two people.
Okay.
We'll make it happen. Yes.
And, on a more serious note, I mean, I was watching the funeral and I was in tears because of a bunch of things, because of that family. That God takes ordinary people to do extraordinary things, and He took an ordinary Black family with all their vernacular, and they were proud that they came from the projects, and it just made me sad that they called him their hero, and I was in tears because they had to now share their hero's homegoing with the world, but I don't think it could have been done any other way.
Okay.
I don't think that they could have done it any other way.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, we're going to leave that alone because I don't want to make nobody mad. But I just had to get that off my chest. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't the only one feeling this way because I look like I go to bed at night and I be watching this. And then I wake up in the morning and I be watching this. And then midday would come around and I would be watching this. And I just wanted to know, if somebody else was watching this too.
Yeah, it was a lot. It's a lot. But you know what? It's a lot anyway. I had to turn the TV off at intervals, and I can't listen to the radio at intervals. I have to put something else on because I'm an insomniac and I can't sleep. And all of that goes into your psyche, and you can't figure all of it out. It's too much coming at once. It was too much coming at once. I could not watch this man die another time. And when I opened my phone on social media, there was a me. And then
somebody is Brian. Look like you're freezing. Okay, I'm gonna cut in right now. And Calvin, are you froze?
Yes, right there.
Okay,
I'm right here.
I think. Listen, I'm not gonna tell everybody, but everybody that's listening, Brian is froze. I think he. He was froze, y'all.
He took a minute.
Yeah, he took a minute.
Break.
I think Reverend Al heard what he said, and I think Reverend Al froze him in time. Now,
don't you worry. I have ties to Reverend Al. We'll make some calls.
Oh, you got I think I'm in trouble today.
I don't know Reverend Al at my funeral. No,
I told you. Don't you worry about it. He'll come and make the nice speech. Yes.
Nice speech.
Okay,
well, you know what? I wanted to have Billie Holiday sing at my funeral, but she's my longtime dead friend.
No, that's okay. We got her CD. I got her CD in my back pocket. Don't even worry about it.
Okay, I gotta remind everybody that you're listening to Rhythm Flow Radio on IntellectualRadio.com, an iHeartRadio station with over 70 shows, 70 to 150 hosts and co-hosts, streaming 24/7 on your smart device with internet access. And today's show is about Love, Blood, and Rhinestone. It's about a book release written, I guess Lynn Baldwin was the ghostwriter for Brian McLemore Smith. And at this time,
yay!
And at this time,
I'm 10 out.
At this time, I'm going to back up and let Bryant, Marcus, and that mocha chocolate Kelvin take it away. I'm going to let them tell you about this awesome book because just the name of it, Love, Blood, and Rhinestone, does something to my body. Talk about it.
So I would just like to go off. I'm going to just talk a little bit about the book, and I'll read the prefix and maybe a chapter for a minute, just a moment. But what I wanted to do with this book was I wanted to give the same gender loving community a voice and give them a novel. And you think on the terms of those great writers like James Baldwin and Zora Neale Hurston and Elin Harris and Lorraine Hansberry and Howard Rollins and all of those great orators, those ones that they wrote those stories that stuck in the back of your head. My favorite story as a child was this Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin, and I didn't know that that was such a necessary book to have as a child. And then many years passed, and I ended up reading The Amen Corner and subsequently being enthralled by this is a story, a book about my people, about my grandparents, about my ancestors, about my parents. And it also pulls me in and it talks about my religion and it talks about my city block and it talks about the collard greens that my family ate. So that whole movement is what prompted myself and the ghostwriter was just the person that I fed all these words to. And we came up with the same gender loving love story about same sex abuse. The book is really a love story, but also it wants to bring awareness to that same sex abuse, that thing that is not talked about. That person that is in a relationship with a man or with a woman and they are physically abusive to them or mentally abusive to them, or and they don't want to call the police because they don't want to get on the phone and say they're getting beat up by their boyfriend, and the police frown on it. You don't tell your brothers and sisters that because that's not a subject that we talk about. Molestation is not a subject that we talk about.
But
We hide
Brian,
it.
but Brian, is there a lot of sex abuse among gay men?
Yes, there is.
Really?
There's a lot of yeah. So I don't want to say not so much as sex abuse because there's the two consenting adults, but I'm talking about physical abuse,
Okay.
being not sexual abuse, but physical abuse. And there is a lot of that between gay men and as well as the lesbians and the transgender community. They're in a relationship with somebody that is beating them up, that is sending them to the hospital, that has them living in fear, that has them disguising the black eye as the doorknob fall, that has them telling their family that they can't make it to a family event because they don't want to bring this monster with them that might snap off at any minute. So you end up being closed away from the world, closed away from your community, so, and you're in the same gender loving community, but you can't even tell your gay friend, if that's what you want to call them, that you're being beat up. Or you're being cussed out.
So it's almost just like a heterosexual person being abused
Yes,
by her husband or her boyfriend, and she's
that's
afraid to.
exactly
Wow, I'll say.
that's exactly what it is. And it's an unspoken, I mean, my plan is to bring this to the forefront. That there's this book is just a book with a bunch of different nuances to it. It's been 6 years in the making. It's had over 20 edits. Then it's been to many editors. We've changed the content many times. We've changed characters many times. There was a lot of research that had to go into it. I mean, the book takes place in Detroit. You got to know what Detroit was like. You got to study the timelines of what was happening in Detroit in the 70s. It goes to Mississippi. You've never been down south. You need to know what happens down south. You need to know, the rooster crowing in the morning, and then you get back to Chicago and you go through the AIDS epidemic and you go through the drug abuse, and then intertwined in that is you being beat up either by the police. You might get jumped by somebody in Boys Town that don't like gay people. Then you go home and could be beat up. So that whole story is just out there. It happens for us like it does everyone else, except for no one in our community talks about it. So, Calvin, what is your take on just a little bit, and then I'll read some of the excerpts from the book. And Katie, keep us on time.
I got you.
Basically,
Calvin?
yeah. You hear me? Do you hear me?
We hear you. We don't see you though.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I didn't know if you heard me or not. That's why. Um, basically, I thought the book was very interesting. There's a lot of good parts in it that the people will be able to start talking more. There'll be a lot of discussion opening up because a lot of people don't talk about those things. So it's very important to be able to start a conversation.
We've got
And now you're going to
interference on our end.
who
Say what?
a lot of interference. Oh, I don't have no music on.
I don't hear any interference. I'm very it seems very clear here in the studio.
Okay. I think that I think this is going to be a perfect avenue to open up conversations. That's where it's going to start at, and then it'll start growing, and other people will start talking about it. Because I think that's a good way. Thank you for opening up that and giving that opportunity for people to talk about it, because it wasn't going to be spoken about. You know.
Okay, well, I want to ask, you're talking about same-sex abuse among gay relationships.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, say, in a heterosexual relationship, if there is abuse, they have domestic violence shelters where the women go
Yes.
to. Do they have any type of shelter for gay men or gay women in I guess in your community? Do they do
Yes.
any of it? Do those kind of shelters exist?
Yes, they do. There's a lot of counseling for all that, for all of those. That's actually a huge community. They're very supportive here in New York. So they do have centers, counseling, and different places to go
Wait,
to
just a minute.
for those
Bryant,
things.
just a minute.
Yes.
Bryant, whatever noise you all
Yeah.
are making, you've got to cut it out because it's going to run me nuts.
No, we're not. It's interference because of the storm. We're not. We're having a bad connection, so we're just sitting here.
Oh, you all got a storm out your way?
Yeah, it's a storm, and we're not doing anything. We're just sitting here, so we're not even moving.
Oh, so that's the noise from the storm?
Well, that interference is static from somewhere. We're just.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm so sorry, but that's about to run me. I don't know. It just found. Can you hear it, Kelvin? It sounds like some.
I hear it. It sounds like potato chip.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a restaurant, but we're not doing anything.
You're not.
We're just sitting right here. We're not moving at all.
I thought maybe you were trying to annoy me. I thought I was gonna have to get in my car and drive out to your house.
No, I don't want you to get in the car. We're trying to get the connection back.
Okay. Okay. There is a brief rain shower that will begin about 5:44 p.m. So there is a weather alert, and it just came across the phone. So I know that there is a problem.
Yeah, so it's out here already.
Okay. So back to what we were trying to talk about. Kelvin was telling me about, I guess you were talking about the shelters for domestic abuse.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, there is counseling. There's different shelters for people to go. Single home. There's also teen centers and places for people. There's private schools now just for that community.
Okay.
So no one's bothering them. There's a school just dedicated to them in different communities in New York. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's
Brian.
been going on already for 10 years.
Oh, that's been going on for 10 years in New York?
Since 2010, they started opening up that school. Yes.
Okay. Now, is that something that's all over the United States, or is that a program?
they're trying to. I guess they're trying to open it. It's only in. I heard maybe 20 cities. I
Oh,
didn't hear anything else from there in terms of schooling. But other than that, it should be more broad opening. But it depends on their town and their community, who's going to run it, who's going to, that comes up to their state officials who run that, because that's a whole different ball game. Mhm.
hmm. So in that gay relationship, I'm just gonna say the male relationship. We're not gonna talk about the because we don't have a female here. We just have men.
Right.
Okay. So the
Hey,
fighting.
Katie.
Okay. Are we okay now?
Okay. Sorry for the interruption. Do you mind taking Brian from backstage, introducing him again?
Okay.
Because it
Because
says
it
he's
says he's
backstage.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay, we got
There
everything
you
straight
go.
now.
Thank
There you
you.
Okay. I'm trying to find Kelvin was telling me that in 20 cities that they have like shelters that are set up for, I guess, domestic violence, like shelters that are set up for for gay men that are in a domestic violence relationship. I guess if they have to leave or if they need shelter or somewhere to stay. And I said I couldn't ask the female that because we don't have a female on the show. We're just dealing with the male part of it.
Right.
And my thing is there a domestic violence shelter for men here in Chicago?
In Chicago, not that I know of. There isn't a domestic violence shelter in the city of Chicago that I know of. They do have the center on Homestead that helps homeless gay teens and homeless gay youth, but there is no domestic violence shelter, nor is there a counseling entity unless somebody that's in the area knows of one. There isn't one. There isn't a safe haven where you can escape your abuser and go somewhere and get some help. There isn't one.
There is nothing, huh?
There's
Oh.
nothing. There's nothing here that addresses this issue, and the issue is out. So, I mean, that's something that this book and this movement is going to address because we actually have somebody living a nightmare, and they can't get anywhere to to escape it.
Okay, so Brian, what made you want to write? What made you want to write write this book? I mean, well, you didn't write the book; you had a
To write
ghost
the book.
writer.
Well, I'll
But
tell you what made me want to what made me want to write it was that I remember being a child and being molested by an older cousin, which was something that wasn't my fault. That wasn't something that defined me or determined who I was, but it made me who I was. But I've had these conversations with so many people about them being beat up and having no voice and not having a family to go to, and because of their sexuality, being turned away from the church,
mhm.
sent to hell at the church, and then sent back to your house to your abuser. So I wanted to write something that was along the lines uh, of a James Baldwin, of something that would give the same gender loving community a voice and
Okay.
something to be proud of, and also something to heal and to deliver. Because you're going to find yourself somewhere in this book, either the abuser, the abusee, or the parent, or the friend, or the cousin, or the nephew of somebody that's being abused. You're going to find yourself being self medicated, doing drugs to ease the pain, which takes you into a whole other lifestyle. So I wanted to write this in order to give us something to be proud of and something for this generation to be able to stand on and say, hey, that was an American novel. That was something that was right for our time. And it was inclusive of everything. Because a woman that's being abused by a man is going to relate to the abuse story, just like a man that's being abused by a man or a woman that's being abused by a woman. The subject is abuse. And I want to read the index, Katie,
Okay.
whenever you're ready.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Come on with it.
Let me read the index. Can you guys hear me? Well,
Okay,
okay.
Brian, before you start reading, I wanna ask one thing.
Yes,
Now, is the book already available?
the book will be available after the 18th of June on
Oh,
Amazon Books
okay,
under the title of Love, Blood, and Rhinestone.
okay,
The artwork is done by my nephew for the cover, which is amazing. It's Shane Jahai art. If you guys Google Shane Jahai art right now while you're even listening on the air, you'll see what amazing work he's done. He created a book cover for me. And me with the ghost writer, who's just taking the words and taking the stories and taking the stuff that's inside my head, and also a bunch of truths of other people that have been through this have been intertwined into this book to make it a story uh, uh, that is something that's going to last. And once pick it up, it's going to be a friend that you can cuddle down with. So after June 18th, the first issues are $9.99, I believe, and then there's gonna come a time where you can get T-shirts and coffee mugs and hats and all that stuff. And then I'll be having a hard book signing out there with my friend Calvin in New York, which is going to be a big to do. And we'll have entertainment, and we'll do the same thing here in Chicago once things start to open
okay. Let's read.
up. Okay, so. So the prefix to the book: was pain necessary for me to find true love? I didn't welcome the pain, but nevertheless I had to endure God's rough draft of life devoid of love. This feeling of emptiness ushers me back to the mean-spirited father who cast a stone of fear towards his youngest son. He used his stone to crush the hopes and the dreams of an innocent child because he felt differently about his sexuality. His efforts to rid me of what he considered a sexual demon came through the mental anguish, the physical lashings of my flesh. He couldn't absorb how humans of the same sex could feel the same physical desire. Now, this shallow minded attitude that love belongs only to the opposite sex drifted in the ocean of ignorance and shipwrecked a son's existence. I became a weary traveler, lugging my father's baggage of rejection into my adulthood. Yes, I was blessed with the unconditional love of a devoted mother who did not care who I shared my erection with. A mother's devotion was not what I yearned for. No, my heart's mission was to be accepted by someone who I dreamed would one day whisper these precious words: I love you.
Oh, wow.
This person I knew I could call the quest, yearning and the craving of my heart, led me down perilous roads to the discovery of what I deemed to be the very existence of love in the arms of a monster. This written journal is a painful regurgitation of my past, a life filled with so much distress, anger, and pain, so many different emotions I struggle to understand. Although I made terrible choices the majority of my life, I didn't view falling for him as one. I fight to find the answers. How could I continue to enrich my tormentor with my devotion and loyalty? I didn't just share my love, I gave him my essence. I hope my words find a way to help someone realize that God given strength comes from within. This book, I write this book as an attempt not only to heal myself, but also to heal other abused souls who might have unanswered questions, victims who have endured, survived, or are living the same nightmarish suffering at the callous hands of mental and physical abuse. True love is supposed to be infinity times forever. However, it was all I could do, and still my devotion was not enough to conquer the heart of a monster. There had to be blood.
Hmm.
So that was just the index. And there is so much more of that richness that I can't I only can I the only thing I could do was put it into words, because you feel this, and you never get it out. And you're looking at people and you can't get it out, you can't get it out, you can't get it out. So I want this book to get it out, and I want this to be a movement. My friend in New York has connections with the movement that's already there. That needs to be here in Chicago. Marcus is a generation that is young enough to want to fight and strive and is proud of who he is and will be able to bring that current voice to this big issue. But the main thing is love, blood, and rhinestones is going to be the book that's going to be that friend that you need to do that.
Why did you decide to give it that title?
Love, blood, and rhinestones. There was a portion in the book where Elijah Ferguson, who is who the book is basically written about, gets into a altercation or is beat up by his lover, and he's beating dresses. He's beating these beautiful dresses, and while being beat up, he's not to the floor. He's plummeted, punched, and kicked. His friend has to come and pick him up off of the floor and takes him to the hospital, to the emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
And the chapter that I can actually read that. It says, I've arrived at the emergency room with my best friend, Reggie. He worked at the hospital, so he knew the exact location to rush me for treatment. My body was physically battered and in shock. My mind was twisted with thoughts so murky I couldn't differentiate the left from the right. She ushered me towards the glass doors, and the glass doors slid open and welcomed me in, and then slammed shut. I was encased in the hospital, a place I detested. The receptionist, a white woman sitting behind a large semicircle desk we approached, preoccupied with the phone conversation, she ignored our presence. Not taking any notice of my condition, she hung up the phone and grabbed a pen and a clipboard, and with a white sheet of paper clipped neatly to the top, and like an elementary school teacher doing her routine roll call, she barked out, "Name." I replied, "Elijah Ferguson." She asked, "Why are you here?" I calmly stared at the top of her sandy blonde hair and I mumbled, "Domestic violence." Hearing a baritone voice utter domestic violence, her focus shifted upwards, locking onto my face. Her eyes filled with the expressions of urgent disbelief. Embarrassed, she turned away. And I knew she was embarrassed because she never looked in my eyes again. Instead, she shuffled through some forms and pulled out a blank sheet that drilled me with a few questions about my personal affairs. And after questioning, she placed the papers on the top of the desk and said, "Please sign the date and forms." I took hold of the pen. I tried to sign my name, but nervous and fried, my hand shook so uncontrollably that I scribbled what resembled a signature next to the line and the name date. I dropped the pen on the desk and it rolled off and fell on the floor. And then, with compassion in her voice, she instructed, "Don't worry about the pen. Go and have a seat until your name is called." And I'm getting to your question. I thanked her and hobbled to the waiting room as instructed. Reggie and I stepped inside the waiting room and we glanced around and noticed multicolored chairs lined together like the front row of a small auditorium. Already sitting and waiting were parents nursing their own injuries, since they all stopped what they were doing and stared at me. I felt as I was walking on stage of an anticipating audience. With the mind hovering in a state of paranoia, I contemplated whether they were staring at me because the overhead receptionist had told them that I was in there for domestic violence. So, I'm going to skip on to this next one. The room was surrounded with mirror-like windows. There was no hiding my grief because everywhere I glanced or peeked, I saw a mirror image of myself. This wasn't a revelation of sort. No, this was God forcing me to take a good look at myself. Curious, I turned to notice a likeness nearby the window, and viewing my reflection, I understood why they were staring at me. I resembled a clown with dried blood caked underneath my caramel skin. The tip of my nose was red and swollen and slightly pointing to the left. Both my eyes appeared to be blushed with black purple makeup. And the longer I stared, the longer the reflection of how my condition came to pass. And somebody whispered, "Damn, somebody messed his face up." A tiny sparkle of light caught my attention. I leaned in to seize a closer look, and I noticed the tiny flicker of light again. I rubbed my head, and it was a tiny rhinestone embedded in my flesh. My emotions gagged me. So that's where the title of Blood and Rhinestones came from.
Mhm.
At
Okay.
the hospital, he had been beaten and it had dry blood.
Now that person that you're talking about, that you're reading about,
Yes,
that's not you, is it?
that is not me fully.
Huh?
It's not me fully. No,
Oh, okay.
It's a characterization of a bunch of people.
Oh,
It
okay.
had that story was a portion of something that did happen to someone.
Okay. Now I want to ask you a personal question. You can tell me that it's none of my business, and you don't have
Okay,
to.
girl.
And honey,
It
you
ain't
don't.
none of, it ain't none of your business.
Okay.
But no, you asked, and you know. Oh, my bad. Ask the question first before I tell you. What,
Ooh,
baby?
you
Go
know-
ahead and ask me.
You definitely know how to just shut me down.
Go ahead, baby. I got you. What is your question?
I was just wondering, have you ever been in a relationship where you have been a victim of domestic violence?
I have.
Okay. Have
And
you ever had to go to the hospital?
I've never had to go to the hospital.
Okay,
I have
okay.
had to call the police.
Oh, you have.
But the
Okay.
police was coming to save them because when they tried it, the domestic violence got turned up a bit, and the police had to be called for me to keep from killing them.
Okay.
Because at some point the abuse was more. I dealt with the person that was an alcoholic whose personality changed when they drank, and they became a mean drunk. And I dealt with that so much to where I had lost weight, and I was losing my hair, and I was going through this torment of listening to this. So it wasn't so much as being physically punched around or slapped around, but still the
Mhm.
mental abuse and the abuse of a person that is an abuser. It was a terrible thing, and the police had to be called. I had broken windows from the same thing, but guess what?
Mm.
I too felt the police officer's gaze at me when he was gone and my window was broken. And I said, "Who did it?" And they said, "Well, who did it?" And I was telling them that the person that I was dating, and they looked at me and said, "Didn't you just kick his ass? Why didn't you kick his ass?" Is what he said to me. So,
As
Grace was African American.
as a heterosexual woman, I just don't know if I don't think I could let a man be abusive to me. I'm serious. I'd have to listen. He that hit one time, just that one time. See, he would have to go.
Yep. Well,
I'm
you know what? It
serious.
took me-
I mean, I hear women say, "But you don't know the love." See, I don't want to know that kind of love. I don't want. Listen, I don't want nobody. I don't want to love nobody that way, and I don't want nobody to love me that way that they have to abuse me, because that's not love.
No, it's not love. And usually it's not love anyway, it's sex. Because people stay in bad relationships because they break up to make up, and that's no different than homosexual or same
But
gender
I don't want.
loving
But I don't
community. It's
even.
the
I
same
don't
thing.
want. I don't even want no sex that good. I'm gonna tell you
No,
something.
neither
I'm
do
just.
I. Don't
I'm
nobody.
gonna say it like this here. Excuse my French. I don't
Right.
want. I don't want no dick that good. Okay? If I meet a piece of dick that good, I don't want it. I don't want it. That is going to abuse me and misuse me. I don't want it.
I do have something to say.
Come on, say
Maybe
it.
it's irrelevant. Maybe I'm not making a point. It does make sense in my mind. It's kind of like Black America's relationship with America when it comes to abusive relationships.
Okay.
The person that is being abused, they always want that validation
Right.
from the abuser. And you probably like, that don't make sense.
It does make sense. It does make sense.
Because we want that validation from America. Why are we still living here in America? We can go back to Africa for all that.
But see,
Well, that matters.
no.
What is it?
You didn't come from Africa. You
No,
see,
I
wait a
did not.
minute, wait. Let me back you up, brother. Let me
No,
back
tell
you.
me you was just
No,
saying
no,
something.
no. Wait, we talking about relationship. You don't need nobody to validate who you are. No,
Yeah,
you
I
don't.
agree.
No, you
I
don't.
agree.
No,
No,
you don't.
I'm saying, I totally agree.
Don't nobody
I,
need nobody.
and that's where,
You are who you are. Once you listen, once you love yourself.
yeah,
Once you love yourself, you don't
and
need nobody
that's the whole basis of
to love
yeah,
yourself and have God in your heart. You don't need no validation. You are who you are. You don't need
I,
nobody to validate you. Whether it be male, whether it be man, woman, dog, child, baboon, ape, monkey, I don't care. You don't need no validation. I'm
You know,
serious.
but I don't like sleeping with monkeys.
Huh? Well,
I
I'm
don't
just
do much.
saying.
I don't do much.
I'm just saying that.
You know, I'm kidding, but I do want to give out. Katie, I didn't mean to stop you because I don't.
Now, come on, now, go ahead. That's your
But
book. You gonna talk about your book.
My
Woo.
manager and I sent the actor Bill Duke the first chapter and the prefix to the book, and he has actually endorsed our book. So that's one of the endorsements that we have so far on the book. He says it's a good read, and he's excited about receiving the rest of it. I've also sent a copy to Dr. Cleo Monago, who is my big brother and friend through the agency, the Black Men's Exchange. He just recently got the book yesterday, and hopefully he'll come on board as also to endorse it. He's with the Amasi Center in Baltimore. So you guys want to talk about a political analyst, a behavioral health analyst? That's Dr. Cleo Monago, and I'm glad to call him my friend. I called him up the other day and asked him to do me a favor and read my book, and he was so obliged to do so. And I want to say hi to Harold Abrams in New York. I saw that you were on. Hi to Stephen, my friend in Trenton. Hi to Willie and Ed out in California, and to Queen Kiana and J-Town. I saw you guys are going in, and Lachey. I want to say hi to you guys, and I appreciate you so much for the support. But if you guys have ever supported Bryant McLemore Smith in anything that I've ever done, let this be the one that you go all the way out. I want this to be a universal word, and I want you guys to support it. Right after June 18th, Love, Blood, and Rhinestone on Amazon Books. You can download it on Kindle. The hard copy has artwork by Shane Jahai Art, and you'll see in there on the author that says Brian McLemore Smith. Hey.
You know, Brian, that book comes out in June. You say June 18th?
Yes, June 18th.
I want to bring you back in July.
Okay.
I want to
And
bring,
I will come back.
because I want to bring you back in July because you touched on a point about validation, and you notice our time is up, but
Yes.
we're gonna come back. We're gonna come back in July.
Okay.
I'm gonna set this up right now.
And I'll play the music.
Okay.
Okay, if you want to do that, we're gonna come
Yeah.
back. Listen, let's come back July. You want to come back July the 14th?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, we're gonna come back July 14th because this hour has come and gone.
I want to thank my brother Calvin. Calvin, you know what? You're my big brother
Yes.
and my little brother all wrapped up in one. I appreciate
Why-
you so much for
And I
your dedication
appreciate-
and for coming through.
Oh my goodness, thank you very much. It was an honor to be a part of something so positive and such
And
good
Marcus-
energy. You're a fabulous host. Thank you, Marcus. I like you. You're really good.
Thank you.
Hey, Marcus. And you, Miss Host.
Yes,
Honey.
Miss House.
Call
Let's
her
hear it.
Miss Host. Hey, yes.
Thank you. Oh, you know
did-
you're making me feel good, right?
So now that you call me chocolate, and I have to send you a bunch of chocolates now.
Honey,
You know.
you my mocha chocolate baby.
mocha chocolate. So I know what I put in the little basket.
Absolutely.
Your little basket of mocha chocolate.
So listen, everybody, we're gonna be back July the 14th with more of Love, Blood, and Rhinestones. I want to remind everybody that you have been listening to Rhythm Radio right here in the house that Earl built, IntellectualRadio.com, an iHeart radio station with over 70 shows, 70 to 150 hosts and co-hosts, streaming 24/7 on your smart device with internet access. And what's going on?
Ooh, yes, I'm in.